Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. It is our final episode of 2022. I'm your host, Ashwin. I'm joined by DJ. It's a little bit of a different episode. You notice some of our graphics are a little bit missing. For those who watch every week on YouTube, you'll notice our backgrounds are a little bit different. I'm traveling on the road. I got all sorts of different things in my background. DJ's traveling on the road just outside of Mumbai. So DJ, how are you doing, man? Final episode of 2022. That's kind of crazy. We're making this happen, even though logistics with holidays haven't really made it easy. How have you been?
Yeah, I'm great, man. It's been an interesting year for Indian cricket fans. It started with the South Africa series. It ended with a Test match win. Yeah, there's been lots of ups and downs. Obviously, thank you all for following us with us on the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. We've had a lot of fun doing it. But as always, Ashwin, there's lots to talk about in this week's episode as well. So I'm looking forward to chatting all that stuff. Test cricket, as you guys know, is our favorite form of cricket, right? So some of our favorite episodes are these Test cricket episodes that we go through.
Yeah, I mean that no better cue than to jump right in than that to jump right in. Let's talk about the Test match, right? So just to set the stage, and I'll run through quickly. It was the second Test match in the India-Bangladesh two-match series. It was a very, very important Test match for India as we look to the World Test Championship table, right? Bangladesh is out of the running, they're near the bottom. But for India, winning this gives us a little bit of breathing room and the kind of result we need in the final four-match series against Australia. Big win in the first Test match. Needed this, and gosh, it got a lot closer than I thought it would get at any point. India ends up winning by 3 wickets, even though, again, in a dominant position for a lot of it. Some heroics from Bangladesh's lower order in the second innings, and we'll go through all that. And of course, Test cricket creates heroes or cements heroes, if you will. And I think I can say pretty safely Ravi Ashwin has kind of cemented his place as an Indian Test cricket hero. But we'll talk a little bit about that. DJ, let's start with what happened with team selection. How often has it happened that a guy, I think he picked up 8 wickets, made a very, very useful 40 runs, picked up player of the match, and did not get selected in the second match. And of course, I'm talking about Kuldeep Yadav. So talk to me about selection, right? We're obviously thrilled for Jaydev Unadkat, but to drop Kuldeep to do it, and was it a pitch that needed the third seamer? And how are you feeling about it?
So when it happened, right, I think you or Varun, one of you guys tweeted out saying Kuldeep won the man of the series, man of the match, and now he's been dropped for the next game, which it's the roller coaster of Indian cricket, right? Like one day you're the man of the match, and you are like everybody saying you're making a comeback. India's going to be back. You're going to be back to being India's number one spinner. You were the point of difference when we couldn't get wickets, and then and you've contributed with the bat. And I mean, imagine what Kuldeep's feeling, right? Like he's feeling like, okay, but maybe I'm back into the fold. I'm doing it, and then the next day you're told, listen, the pitch isn't conducive to your kind of bowling. So Ashwin and Aksar are ahead of you. So you're our number 3 spinner. And remember, Ravi Shastri once called him our first overseas spinner, right? And I mean, what was very interesting about that is when Rahul was asked about that, Ashwin, and we're going to come to KL Rahul's captaincy, I'm sure, is when he was asked about that, he said, I just let the experts, i.e., Rahul Dravid, make the decision because he didn't seem to have much of a say in that, which is, I mean, it's weird, right? Your captain just kind of disclaiming any responsibility. I can't see Virat doing that. Or even a Rohit. They were saying, like, listen, bro, I haven't had anything to do with this team selection. It was selected by the coach. Now, this is not football. The manager and the coach don't select the team, really. It should, I mean, the captain should have much more of a say. So I think Kuldeep has good reason to be disappointed. And when you looked at that last innings where 7 wickets fell of the Indian team, all 7 were taken by spinners. And those guys were looking unplayable for long periods. That said, the guys they picked, Umesh and Unadkat, both did pretty well. I mean, one of your favorite players, Umesh, picked up 4 wickets. But we'll talk about all of this. I think it just goes to that muddled thinking that this Indian think tank has been accused of in the past. And I mean, if you're Kuldeep, you're shattered, right? Like it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, in some sense, I think the tweet that I sent out was Kuldeep being dropped was just classic Team India. Like it's just classic of what we've seen. It just doesn't seem to make sense. It seems like the most obvious decisions. So let me summarize it with this. I've rarely seen us win a test match and sweep a test series and be in real contention now for the WTC finals, and still seen all fans, like all of our listeners, or majority of our listeners, all of us, all of our friends, people we engage with, still so frustrated with the side.
So
And that
many
just shows you,
questions, right?
right?
Crazy.
Like,
After
and you
winning
could
two
sit here
zero,
and
as we
say we won,
predicted.
we swept it. Yeah, we swept it. We won it 2-0, and now there's just so many questions, so much more to deal with. So and I agree with you. I think the last thing I'll say is Rahul almost looked like he might miss the match for a moment there. He got hit in the net, and I think I was sitting there thinking, gosh, if Pujara walks out for the toss, that'll be our eighth Indian captain in 2022.
What, eighth
And
Indian Test captain? No,
no, captain. I would usually
overall.
say Shikhar is captain a game here and there, like, or a few games and stuff. Like, but that's just bonkers, right? Like, so, and that's just, I think, symptomatic of what's actually going on. But we did win the game, and so now let's talk about it a little bit. Bangladesh won the toss, came out to bat first. Probably the right call. Shakib said the first couple of sessions will be tough to negotiate with the first couple of hours with the new ball. Turns out they weren't that hard. I think the openers did pretty well. First
Yeah,
wicket
they
went to
batted
Jaidev
well.
Unatka. Yeah.
They batted
Uh,
really well, actually.
they did. They negotiated the new ball well. The first wicket off the match went to Jaidev Unatka, who also picked up his, of course, maiden test wicket for India. DJ, how great did that feel? Like
That was
how good a
so.
moment is that?
It was great. I mean, 12 years after making your debut, right? Your test debut, 12 years later. You were an 18-year-old. You played against the South Africa team with AB de Villiers, Hashim Amla, Jacques Callis, and they basically smash you everywhere. And then you have that tweet saying, "Dear Red Ball, give me one more chance." And the joy and the relief because he'd beaten the bat so many times. There was an edge that nearly went to hand. There was all of that stuff because he bowled beautifully. And then to see that extra bounce and the ball to go up, and it was just a simple catch. I think Rahul took it. But I mean, I think all over India, Indian fans had to feel some amount of joy at that wicket. And of course, at Edges and Sledges, he's one of the first Indian cricketers we interviewed. So, I mean, team JD for sure, man. What a moment. Just pure joy, I think, all around.
Could not agree more. He ends up picking a second wicket as well and picks up Mushfiqur, who is a good scalp. Ashwin picks up 4 wickets. Umesh picks up 4 wickets, which is interesting. So I'm sitting there saying, hey, Siraj didn't get anything and Akshay didn't get anything. Arguably, I don't think Siraj would have been left out after the first test match, but arguably Akshay was the guy who could have been left out for Kuldeep, as we discussed a little. But still, 227 to get the Bangladeshis all out, you'd take that in a heartbeat. Then India makes in response makes 314, right? Rahul, which we will come to in a second, doesn't get much. Shubman doesn't get much. Pujara and Kohli both kind of get starts but don't really get going. An absolutely breathtaking partnership from Rishabh Pant and Shreyas Iyer to basically keep us alive, to be honest, right? Rishabh Pant makes a phenomenal 93. He now has more scores between 90 and 99 than he does centuries. I think it's 5 centuries and 6 scores between 90
Five
and 99,
centuries, six nineties, yeah.
which is just so sad and upsetting. But basically, I mean, he has those 11 match-changing or game-changing knocks of above 90. Um, a couple things I'll highlight. Of course, Shreyas hit 87 as well. And then the tail didn't do much. But Shakib picked up 4. Tajul Islam picked up 4. Mehdi Hassan Miraz picked up 1. That's 9 wickets went to spinners. 1 wicket went to Taskin Ahmed, right? And that was Kohli.
That was
So a couple
Kohli. That
questions.
was a great ball, by the way. And
Excellent
Kohli
delivery.
did his usual fending at the ball and went. So unfortunate.
So a couple things to ask, right? Rahul, obviously, no suspense, failed in the second innings as well, making 2. Kohli failed in the second innings as well, making 1. Are these two guys liabilities? And we'll talk a little kind of marks out of 10 or hits and misses. But are these two guys now a liability in our test side as Rohit comes back? Is Rahul the guy who makes way, or do you kind of pull a Kuldeep move and let Gill make way despite Gill looking better than Rahul? It's a
So
loaded
Gill got his
question.
first. Yeah, it's a tough question, right? Like, I mean, Rahul, I think he hasn't looked himself for some time now. Whether it's T20 cricket, whether it's Test cricket, he looks sort of tentative, kind of getting middling scores. He looks like he's under pressure. He talks about like I like baseball and stuff, and then you come out and play those innings, which are just so tentative, and it's just showing a lack of confidence, right? And he had a run maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago where he scored a lot of runs in turning tracks. He was good against spin, but he looks like he's lacking that confidence to play spin properly. He got out LBW in the first innings coming down the track, but again it was a tentative poke, and in the second innings again he poked at it tentatively and gave a catch behind. And when Rohit comes back, he walks back into this team. But if you're looking to the future, are you going to back Gill or are you going to back Rahul for that second spot against the Australians? Now, Gill hasn't filled you with confidence either, right? So he scored that 100, but it's easy to score 100 when you're, 200 runs ahead and the opposition is on the mat. There are no easy test hundreds because neither of us have any, right? But it's like the
Fair. That's
conditions
true.
are
Neither
different.
you nor I have a test 100, so you can't
Yeah,
argue with
so
that.
I don't want to like do down that 100, but the conditions were different. The situation was different. You went and got 190 for two, out of which he scored 110. But I don't know. I think Rahul and Gill are probably now looking at a single spot. You've got 4 tests against Australia. I suspect Rahul will start that test series, but Gill will be snapping hot on his heels, to be totally honest with you. And Rohit will come back in. But yeah, KL looks fried, to be honest. Yeah, but he's getting married in January, so maybe that changes his luck.
Maybe luck will turn around. We hope it does. We really, really do. So I'll come back to the Kohli question later because that's a loaded one as well, and I want to talk a little bit about Virat. But let's talk a little bit about our middle order, right? So we've talked a lot about how Pant at 5, Iyer at 6 seemed pretty solid. DJ, one of the things I was looking at is a series of numbers that I'm going to read out: 3, 6, 6, 11, 15, 10. Those are Rishabh Pant's scores from the start of the T20 World Cup through to the start of this series in limited overs. They were all limited overs matches.
Okay.
Then he makes 46 in the first test match, and 93 here. Is he just making it ever so much clearer that he is an outstanding test match player and a very middle of the pack kind of limited overs player? I hate to say it, but with the bat, that seems like it's proving to be the case, isn't it? The numbers seem to say that.
Yeah, he's probably India's greatest wicketkeeper batter already. And I say that as an MS
That
Dhoni
is a
fan.
huge statement from DJ. Oh man, that's a big one.
In test matches, right? Look at his average. Yeah. Look at the number of hundreds. Look at where he scored them. Look at the situations in which he scores these runs. Again, you were 48 for 3. In the first game, you were 48 for 3. When he comes in and hits that 46, changes the momentum. Again, you were struggling here. I don't know how many wickets we had.
72 for 3. And then he's with Kohli, and Kohli goes 94 for 4. And you're sitting there saying Pant and Iyer are out there. And he just changed the game.
Yeah. And he's done this over and over again. The last test match we played was in England. And he came out and played that magnificent innings with Jadeja in company to score those hundreds. Again, changed the game. And put aside the limited over stuff, I think, but it'll be relevant when we talk about Kohli as well, because if we say Kohli's out of form in tests, he's been scoring hundreds in limited overs. So how is that all working? I think he needs to figure out the game in limited overs a little bit. He's obviously got the talent and the game for it. Maybe shot selection needs to be a bit better. It's the Virender Sehwag thing, right? There are more gaps in Test cricket. But you can see the game almost changes when Pant walks in. They've got fielders running everywhere. They're going to the boundary. And there's a different vibe when Pant bats. And I think people who bat with him kind of feed off that as well. Like Shreyas fed off that a little bit as well, because he started off a bit slower. But then when Pant accelerated, so did Shreyas. And I think he's just magnificent in Test.
To your point, 94 for 4 before the Shreyas and Pant partnership started in almost 38 overs, right? So that's batting at 2.5 runs and over. And then both these guys batted almost around the ball. So just change the nature of the game. DJ, we're going to take a really quick break. When we come back, I want to talk to you about Shreyas Iyer the second half. And then we will also talk, in case you're waiting, in this week's episode, just briefly about the IPL auction. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. If you're watching this live on YouTube, as usual, we didn't really take a break or go anywhere, but we're going to continue talking about the India-Bangladesh test. DJ, I'll come to it in a second. So, but thanks to Rishabh Pant, Shreyas Iyer heroics, we ended up making 314, got a nice little lead, just under 100 runs, but got a decent little lead there. And then Bangladesh came out swinging, like a great knock from the opener Zakir, who made 51. Litton Das made 73, and the tail just wagged, like from 159 for 7 when it felt like we had them on the ropes. They ended up making 231. Right? So India now, and again, kudos to Ashwin picking up 2, Akshar picked up 3. So again, that's 5 wickets to spin, and then each of the pacers picked up 1 or 2 wickets. So you're now in a situation where the target is 145 runs, and there's a few overs on day 3, I think it was, to play out, and then of course the rest of day 4. DJ, Shubman and Rahul got through 19. I think it was 19 for 0 at the end of the day, and then the calamity just started. So walk me through it. Right, Gill makes single digit score, 7 of 35. Pujara 6, Rahul 2. Akshar comes in at 2 down as a kind of night watchman ish, or they just wanted to bring in the lefty. He ends up making a decent score. Then Virat comes in at 5, makes 1 of 22 balls and gets out. So then they send Unadkat in at 6. Like it's just crazy. Like the whole thing was just kind of crazy thinking, but also when you include Rishabh Pant, who did great in the first innings and failed in the second, 5 of our top 7 batsmen made single digit scores, and the 2 who didn't were Akshar and Unadkat, who are bowlers, right? In the side, bowlers / all-rounders. I mean, a collapse of epic proportions, right?
Yeah. So all of this happened actually. So we were set the target of 145 at the end of day 3. We come out with Rahul and Gill, and Rahul, the first ball of the second innings, Gill has a massive LBW appeal against him. And for all money, that looks absolutely plumb. I think you and I were exchanging messages, and we were saying that looks gone. He looks
Yeah, it was
completely plumb.
Shakib bowling
And
too, right?
DRS
Shakib bowls the first over of the innings. Anyway, yeah. DRS saved him.
Yeah, it was crazy, but that kind of set the tone for that little session. I think it was maybe 20 odd overs that they had to bowl on day 3, and it was just 45 for 4, sending Akshar Patel in at number 4 to negate the 2 left arm spinners in Taijul and Shakib. I think that was a decent move, but then Kohli's innings, where I think he was just trying to absorb all that pressure. I think he got out to Mehdi. He had a bit of a spat with the Bangladeshi fielders. It wasn't a great look, I have to say.
That was crazy.
That evening session definitely went to Bangladesh.
Yeah. And the Kohli spat was not a great look in general, right? Like he celebrates other players' dismissals. Yeah. Yes, you could argue the Bangladeshi celebrated a little hard, didn't need to get all up in his grill, but just not a great moment. So
no, but 45-4 at that point, Indian fans are worried, right? You're worried because there's not a lot more to come at that point.
Yeah, you're worried. And then you think, okay, maybe Pant will save us, right? I know Varun and I were definitely thinking Pant will be the savior. Obviously, then Unadkat gets out, Rishabh Pant gets out, 71 for 6. And then Akshar Patel, who had made some runs overnight, 34 runs or so, highest score at that point, gets out as well. So now in a chase of 145, you are 74, I think it was, for 7. And
74
it looks
for
like
7, yeah.
And it looks like the wheels have just come on. And yet, somehow, I'm not even going to talk about the victory and the result that came from it. Somehow there was this sense of calm from having Shreyas Iyer at the crease. And I don't know if it's just me. We've talked on the show before. I'm a fan. He's been a Delhi Capitals player for a while, or he was a Delhi Capitals player for a while. And he, I'm a big fan of his, right? He's got some issues against the short ball. A lot of people, we talked last week, he's one of the better players we have of spin. But even at 74 for 7, with 70 odd runs needed, with Shreyas at the crease, did you feel that sense of calm? And what does that say about what he's brought as a player who hasn't played all that much Test cricket for India yet? I think he's our highest run scorer in 2022.
Yeah, and that's kudos to him for that, because he's not an automatic selection in many people's books. Um, he gave me a sense of calm, but the Bangladeshi bowlers looked dangerous. I mean, Mehdi, I think, got an edge of Ashwin when we were 80 odd. It went to Mominun, who'd taken a brilliant catch to dismiss Kohli earlier on, and he dropped that, thankfully. Um, but I think Iyer has shown the temperament that he showed in that kind of that melting pot of pressure. I think those are great signs for Indian cricket. We've got 4 test matches coming up at home. We've got a home World Cup coming up as well in the ODI sphere. I think this innings, it may not have been much, it's 29, right? But I think it's much more than that for Indian cricket fans. He scored more runs. Rightfully, he should have been the player of the series, 100%. I have no idea how that went to Pujara. I think even Ashwin alluded to it, saying Shreya should have been sharing the man of the match trophy for me if he wasn't the man of the series. And then it went to Pujara. But he was just so calm under pressure, hitting the bad balls for 4, rocking back, hitting it over the leg side when the ball fell short. And it was just, he's possibly one of our better players of spin with Rohit. He was fantastic. The footwork was decisive, front, back, putting the bad balls away. Akshar as well. I mean, we have to give him credit. He was batting under a lot of pressure. The top order had gone. He'd been promoted. But I mean, Shreyas Iyer, magnificent 29. What an important 29 that was.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't have put it better, right? Like really, really well said. And so even though we were 74 for 7, we had Shreyas Iyer who notched up an outstanding 29. And then again, DJ, I'm going to read out a couple of things to you. The number 1 ICC Test all-rounder is Ravindra Jadeja. The number 3, who obviously is missing in action because of injury. The number 3 ICC Test all-rounder was on the other side, Shakib Al Hasan. Number 4 is Ben Stokes. That's some good company. But on the other side of the pitch with Shreyas Iyer was actually, I learned for as a surprise, the number 2 ranked ICC Test match all-rounder. And that is Ravi Ashwin. I mean, we think of him as a bowler. We've said, yes, 5 test hundreds and stuff. To me, it's not just about his test hundreds. It's about the 20s and 30s and 40s he makes batting at number 8. And in this case, 9. That can really, truly change the game. How critical was it to see Ravi Ashwin? And by the way, 16 runs to win. And he takes them all in that last one over. He hits a 6, it's for 2, and then 2 4s to finish it off. I mean, that is a statement of intent if I've ever seen one, right? Was Ravi Ashwin sending a message to the world saying, this is it? Like I started the episode saying, write my name in, cement my place as one of Test cricket's legends?
Yeah, definitely. What a knock. What a knock under pressure. 42, not out. I mean, high scorer in a chase where your entire top order is collapsed. I mean, he's hit that winning 4 against Pakistan as well, right? Earlier in the year, he's sort of making a habit of being there in those Kodak moments, so to speak, at the end of the game. Just, I mean, that knock was just he was just backed himself. He just that 6 he hit was just fantastic. Any top order batter would have been proud of that. And then the way he finished it off on driving it off the back foot through like between mid on and mid wicket was just so good. And I mean, he hasn't played a lot overseas of late. People tend to like say, oh, he just takes wickets at home, but these are the contributions that you will remember in a year that hasn't been great for Indian Test cricket. In a year where we've lost in South Africa, we've lost in England, we've not done great. He gave Indian cricket fans a reason to smile with that knock. So while Ashwin, I think he picked up 8 wickets in the match as well. That knock of 42 will live on in the memory, and it was just he's so calm and he's so calculated about this kind of thing, and he backs himself in these conditions. He may not score a whole lot of runs in seaming conditions in England, but he used to open the batting as a schoolboy cricketer, right? And so he will back himself to score runs in these conditions. He's got 5 test hundreds, which is 4 more than Shubman Gill and 5 more than any of us. He's just, I mean, I love him, and I love his tweets after that. He's gone a bit wild on Twitter after that as
he's
well.
loving it.
He's had
He's
a go
loving it.
Yeah, it's so good. Like he had to go at the Sri Lankan guy who was like saying some rubbish to him, saying that, oh, I thought I'd blocked you, but okay, now I'll block you. Then he's talked about people calling him like a cricketer that overthinks, which I think is a reference to Michael Vaughan, which he did last year, I think, called Ashwin an overthinking cricketer or something like that. Ashwin's like, bro, I overthink. It may not work for you, but it works for me. So, yeah, whatevs.
That's it.
But just so good to see Ash bring it home. Ash Reyes, what a partnership.
Ash Reyes, as you called it, big win for Team India. Ravi Ashwin becomes the second Indian ever to hit 3,000 runs and take 400 Test wickets after Kapil Dev. Think of that company.
That Kapil Dev, yeah,
Yeah,
wow. I mean,
becomes
that
this.
says it
Yeah,
all, right?
becomes the second fastest to do so in the world after Richard Hadley. Took 88 innings for him to get
Richard Hadley.
400 wickets and 3,000 runs. I mean, that company is unbelievable. So kudos. I'm sure I have been the first to say Ashwin deserves his place in this team as a bowler, no question. But I didn't rank his batting quite as highly as I should have. I mean, he has saved our behind. I think he did it on Diwali in one-day colors, and he did it on Christmas Day in Test colors. So I mean, he seems
Yeah.
to like. He seems to like batting and showing up with the bat on festivals. So congratulations to Team India.
Is the Border
Congratulations.
Gavaskar Trophy being played on Holi? Is the
If
Border
it is,
Gavaskar Trophy
I
being
would
played on
put
Holi?
all my money on Ravi Ashwin. That's it. I'm just going to bet all my money that Ashwin will show up big that day. But yeah,
Yeah,
congratulations
and what a
to
time
all
to
our
do it
fans.
as
Like,
well.
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
What a time to do it as well. World Test Championship hopes lying on the line. And I mean, if you lost this, then you have to beat Australia with many more wins and stuff. And I mean, what a time to come to the party, man. And these are the things that you remember. I mean, Ashwin may not remember a 10-wicket haul against the West Indies, right? But this is what he will remember. This is what fans like us value as well. And kudos to Bangladesh as well. Let's give them credit where it's due. They made this really hard for the Indian team. And
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, their
I'm
fans and them deserve some congrats as well. It was good.
100% agree. Well said. Huge congrats to them. I mean, it's unfortunate to end up being 0-2, but like Mehdi Hassan Miraz in that second innings, bowling was absolutely outstanding. And for his fifer, Shakib bowled really well. You know, a couple of opportunities, arguably. Kohli, who I didn't talk more about, which I'm going to table for today, but dropped 4 catches in the slips, right?
What's up with
Okay,
that?
quickly, that's shocking, right? And to your point on Rahul and pawning off the blame, if you will, for team selection to Rahul Dravid, could or should KL Rahul not have moved him, swapped him out? Not, as a skipper. It's not that you're saying you're being demoted from the slips forever. You're just having a bad day. It's okay. You drop 2 catches, we'll move you out. We'll bring some fresh blood in there. We have some excellent slip fielders in this team, but obviously didn't do it, right?
Yeah, Pujara. Why wasn't Pujara in there?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds crazy to think that after dropping the 2 catches, he still stayed. So we will debrief Virat Kohli another day. DJ, very exciting to see us win 2-0. As we kind of go into the final few days of the year, lots to cover. We will cover the IPL in depth when we do our previews closer to the IPL. But I just want to quickly touch upon a couple of things from the auction. Lots of interesting action, right? It was always fun to watch. I know engaging with the auction is just almost as much fun as the IPL itself some days. But a couple of key records were set. Sam Curran goes to the Punjab Kings for 18.5 crore, highest ever for a player. Cam Green goes to the Mumbai Indians for 17.5 crore, second highest ever for a player. And in third place was Ben Stokes going to CSK at 16.25. So all 3 all-rounders, right? Just to round out the list of big buys, Nicholas Puran, big payday for him, 16 crores going to the Lucknow Super Giants. Hyderabad went big for the next 2 as well. Harry Brook and Mayank Agarwal getting 13.25 and 8.25 crores respectively. And then the list kept going on. But yeah, any major surprises? I think all the predictions before the auction had said Sam Curran and Cameron Green were the big 2. Harry Brook also good for him. But yeah, any major surprises? Any quick takeaways from the IPL auction?
Yeah, I mean, Cam Green picked up a fifer just to celebrate his price tag as well in Test
Yeah,
cricket today.
at the
which is
G.
cool. At the G. But, bro, Manish Pandey going to Delhi. What? Have you been speaking to those guys or something?
Honestly, it's just amazing for me. My only reaction was, this is going to be great for DJ and for the show. Like, no, I don't even follow him that much anymore. I don't really care about it, but it's gonna be it's gonna be the best thing for me to see him wear Delhi colors.
He's not going to get a game, surely. I mean, you've
He's
got
for
so many
sure gonna
better
get it.
players than him.
You've been a Delhi fan for long enough to know that he won't get a game to start. We'll have 2 or 3 bad games. They'll bring him in to try to consolidate the middle order. This is a playbook. We've seen this before. This is how this goes.
Do you know
Oh,
who they beat on their price tag? Who was the highest ever player before Sam Curran? Who was the highest paid player before Sam Curran?
was it Yuvraj? No.
No, it was Rajasthan Royals bought Chris Morris.
Oh yeah, of course. I remember that. So
Yeah,
are you
that was
saying
that was a huge
are you,
price tag.
are you saying you don't believe all rounders are all they're cut out to be?
I mean, Sam Curran had a great T20 World Cup, right? And Cam Green, I mean, he doesn't have great T20 figures, but he's got potential, right? He'll be okay, and he did well in India when he came to India. So I think that's played in his favor. There's a bit of a recency bias there as well. It all depends on how they play in the season. If they don't do well, they get released almost immediately, and people will try and either buy them back for less money or trade them to someone else. So I think CSK has done well with the Ben Stokes buy. That is fantastic. But
Huge. I agree.
yeah, that's huge. And Karan's going back to Punjab, right? And Punjab have had kind of a reset and stuff. So I think, yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think all rounders always command a lot of money at the IPL, particularly guys who can bowl. I don't know whether Stokes is going to bowl in the IPL, but we'll see. Maybe he can bowl some off spin or something at the stadium in Chennai.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. We will see where we go from here with the IPL. Like I said, you know that that's our favorite time of year. We're going to do a deep dive as we get closer to the start of the season. DJ, I think that's a wrap for us. I think we're gonna to wrap up 22 with the fond memory of India beating. Yeah, you have something to add?
Yeah, I have one question for you. What is your favorite cricketing moment of 2022? Your
Yeah,
high of 2022?
I think it's funny because I know we talked about this briefly. You're gonna say, I think you're gonna say Virat Kohli, and mine is too, but I think mine is slightly different. And my favorite moment of 2022 was century number 71. I think Virat ending that drought and getting that 71st century was just such a special moment. So big fan, very excited to see that moment. So yeah, I think my favorite cricketing moment of 22 was Kohli's century number 71. And if you're listening to this or watching us on YouTube, etc., throw your favorite cricketing moment of 2022 in the comments or send it to us in a tweet. We'd love to hear it. DJ, what was yours?
Yeah, so mine was obviously being at the G while he flicked those two sixes
I mean,
flicked
that's
one
hard to
six and
top,
hit one
man.
down the ground.
That is so hard to top that
That
one.
I
But
don't
yeah,
think I think it's going to be my favorite cricketing moment of all time. Those
yeah.
That game was just unbelievable. The energy of that game. Even Kohli, like a month later, tweeted about it or sent an Instagram post saying that he's never felt like that before on a cricket ground. And I mean, I've watched a lot of cricket, right? That just felt so different, and it was so. We were just so happy because it was King Kohli, and as Varun put it, he was coming home on Diwali. So just fantastic. What a moment.
What a way to end the episode and end the year for Edges and Sledges. Congratulations to Team India for a big series win again. Thank you to all our listeners for being here. It's just such a wild ride when it comes to cricket, but such a fun way to do it is to live it with all of you. So happy holidays to everybody who celebrates. We won't be back till at least the new year. So happy new year to everybody in advance. DJ, our next recording is supposed to be Sunday the 1st. I think we're probably going to take a break and be back kind of at a normal time the following week. So we'll see you all
I,
probably
I think the
in
next game is on the third, so it's probably fair for us to take a week off. It
perfect.
saves us having to do episodes without like proper mics and backgrounds and all of that stuff. So I think probably the week after, maybe the 8th, is when we'll go live, and we'll put that out on the 9th or something like that.
Perfect. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks for bearing with us with the imperfect technology. We try to put this episode out even when technology gets hard. So we love doing this. As always, at One Tip One Hand on all the social medias. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. Have a wonderful end to the new year. DJ, last thought before we wrap up?
Yeah, last thought. Happy New Year, guys. And we're at 4,995 Twitter followers. So if you have a Twitter account,
5.
or
We need
even if
5
you don't
more.
have a Twitter account, go create one and follow us on Twitter. One tip, one hand. On that
Perfect.
note,
Good little plug. On that note, Edges and Sledges signing off for 2022. We will be back next year. Thanks for joining us, everybody.